Cloud. Please give a warm welcome to Yann Lechelle, CEO of Scaleway.
Good morning, everybody. So we're going to start off the session with a little exercise to set the mood. So first question, do you think Scaleway is the best cloud provider? If you think so, raise your hand. Okay, I'm impressed. Now, you guys from Scaleway, you're biased, right? As you would. Now, the question is, do you think that there is a best cloud provider? Think about it based on your needs and your use case. Think about this best cloud provider for you. You have it? Okay. Now, is this cloud provider that you have defined as best cloud provider, is it the best cloud provider in terms of cybersecurity? Is it the best cloud provider in terms of sustainability? Is it the best European cloud provider? Is it the best cloud provider in terms of paying taxes and bringing back some of the financial gains into the local ecosystem? Right? So these are the questions that are fundamental to this session, because the notion of best has to be redefined. It is no longer as simple as it was before, and I'll explain why. So today we're going to talk about multi-cloud and choice. So let's dive in to the era of multi-cloud, because now multi-cloud is a thing. So a quick word of introduction. Scaleway, of course, is a cloud provider, but Scaleway is embracing this notion, and I'll explain why. So, creating choice is something that we do because we believe that it brings value. If we understand that, we can participate in this economy. If we don't, as a decision maker, as a developer, we therefore do not embark in this notion of creating choice. So, the multi-cloud is here to stay, and this is why. Let's step back over the past 20 years. These companies, these use cases could not be achieved 20 years ago. In fact, recently we had the pandemic, and because, and thanks to technology, we were able to switch from in real life to being, confined at home. The pandemic was actually acceptable because we had technology. This technology has been built over the past 20 years. Use cases like booking a doctor, using a transportation that is shared. The shared economy has taken off because of technology. And also in terms of marketplaces, all of these use cases are possible today, were not possible 20 years ago. They're possible at scale because of the cloud. The cloud is what made it possible over the past 20 years. Now, we talked about the digital divide 5 years ago. It turns out that today, 80% of the population worldwide has access to these technologies, these enabling technologies, 80% worldwide thanks to the smartphone. But that doesn't work without the cloud. The cloud is connected to every single use case that lives in a smartphone. Therefore, the cloud is an enabler, and it's a massive transformation. And if you work in the cloud, with the cloud, you know this very well, it has creating a paradigm change. So these companies, Doctolib, BlaBlaCar, Content Square, and many others will be speaking today because they will tell you about their use case, about their problems, their scalability issues, how they use open source and other solutions to actually address the problem. But we need to look at the 20 years behind us and how the cloud has enabled something and see where we are today. Now, in terms of market share, this is important because 16% of the European market share is provided by European players. And I'm talking general statistics, right? And in terms of cloud solution providers, IaaS and PaaS, only 2% of the 16%, so 2% out of 100% in Europe, is provided by companies that you know, Scaleway, OVH, and that is a problem because the market is skewed, provided by players that are non-European. The market is not balanced. That's a fact. The question is, how did we get there? Why is it so unbalanced? Is there something wrong? So just look at the stats. The stats are staggering, and here we're looking at France. In France, 70% is controlled, the market share is controlled by 3 players, all of which are Californian. No offense, Liam. Love California, right? But California is very good at this. California creates players that have national, international, global ambitions. They execute really well. But Europe let this happen. And we are in this situation today because we let it happen without paying attention to the balance of things. So this situation, I believe, is not acceptable because of the imbalance, not because there's something wrong with those players. There's nothing wrong with them. Actually, they're pretty good. You should check them out. I think they're pretty cool technology. But the problem is the imbalance in this equation. Further is this equation. Here we talk about French tech. And we should be proud of the French tech. The French tech companies are represented here, right? The French tech 120, the next 40. These companies are supposed to be the future of our economy. They're going to be creating jobs. They're going to be capturing value. But the problem is that the foundation of these companies is based, and this is public information, on a technology layer that comes from the US, right? 75% with one single cloud provider. So that is a problem, because what happens when there is a geopolitical context, just like what happened with Trump, the US, and Huawei? Trump invalidated the Android license overnight. What happens when there is such a thing? This is what I call a risk. It's a geopolitical risk. It is a risk management. It's a financial risk. And it is something that doesn't scale, basically, as a nation, as a European construct, and, of course, globally, because these companies need competitors as well, and they need competitors with a different mindset. So that is part of the problem. Again, nothing against AWS. Again, it's a great company. We look up to them because they create great technology, but the equation doesn't stand on its legs, because the French tech cannot depend solely on one foundation. In fact, if we think macroeconomics, the US mindset is very interesting to study. There is an article in the US Chamber of Commerce that says Europeans are starting to bother us with their regulation because they're preventing us from capturing finance and revenue from the European market, and therefore they're preventing us from creating jobs in the US. So the US is thinking that technology is a way to bring money back to the US to create jobs in the US. European mindset is not there yet. We're like, oh, it's an open market. Come, red carpet, right? That doesn't work. We need to think about the value creation. So this is a picture representing what's happening. We have currently a mindset where we are fine with this, and we should not. There is a sort of tornado, and I'm not just talking about the cloud. I'm talking about this ability for Silicon Valley to create this center of gravity, this tornado, this vortex that captures data, revenue, jobs, value creation, innovation, all of which is actually creating imbalance, right? We have to talk about our trade balance here. This is macroeconomics. So what do we do to actually rebalance things? The center of gravity should be in the middle of the ocean. Here it's dead center in California. It doesn't have to be in Europe, but it should be in the middle of the two. So let's look at the situation today, because things have changed fundamentally. 3 things happened recently. First, there is Trump's America First. It's a radical change of policies where the US is now firmly positioned to make sure that they remain first in front of China. Europe is a side consideration. So we are a natural partner by virtue of the war, Second World War, and by virtue of the legacy that we have with the US. The US, the United States, was founded by Europeans. And then the US saved us from Second World War and therefore created the European construct in some ways. So we have a joint destiny. But still, Trump changed the game by saying America first from now on. And then we had COVID. Europe realized that it was not able to produce masks. And then the war in Ukraine, which at our borders means that we need to think about what the European construct, what Europe means. What do we want from Europe? So as a result, these three perfectly timed events have redefined the cloud as we've known it, which has been the evolution of on-premises and then private cloud, and then the single cloud, which has become a myth, a lie and a fallacy. The single cloud is no longer the right answer to your needs. It is not sustainable because overnight they can pull the plug for any given reason. And that is not acceptable for your businesses. It's not acceptable for France as a nation. It's not acceptable for Europe. It's not acceptable for your children because we are creating value here. So today, we are entering the era of multi-cloud. Multi-cloud has been around as a concept for a good decade, but it has not been applied because it is a little bit more complex, right? As a developer, you need to think about compatibility, what is the common layer between the cloud providers. You have to think about access and revocation rights, and you have to think about load balancing, and you have to think about end user choices. That's complicated. Nevertheless, today, multi-cloud is here to stay because we need to look about this stack. The stack here is precisely what we're building at Scaleway. We're building the foundation layer, but we're also building products that make multi-cloud possible. And multi-cloud is this stacking up of things. And if you look at the data, in fact, my previous companies, I was using 3-4 cloud providers already. But here, 80% of the use cases are just fine with 20% of the products. So if you enter this mindset, and if you think that multi-cloud is a solution for your needs, then you can participate in rebalancing the equation in a way that makes you an active participant in the future of Europe, in the future of France, in the future of your company. Again, risk management, choice in terms of pricing, choice in terms of data regionalization, choice in terms of what your clients accept or do not accept. And in some cases, they also have a say in terms of GDPR and so on and so forth. So the multi-cloud is a construct that we invite you today to discover along with all the other topics, open source, talent retention, training, CI/CD, all of these considerations that make your daily lives as a CTO. So I wish you an excellent day today at the CTO Forum within Vivatech. We're very proud to have brought the technology track to Vivatech. It has been a long dream of mine because Vivatech should not be just about marketing, but it's also about tech, the underlying technology, without which nothing works. So this is your day. Make the most of it. I hope the viewers online take advantage of it as well. And one last thing, just a heads up. We're going to be operating this track at the Open Source Experience Forum in November. So if you can scan the QR code or check the website, you can still submit your conference propositions, right? And I invite you to attend because open source is also an instrument that allows to create multi-cloud because it creates a level playing field. So with multi-cloud, you can actually work with multiple cloud providers because there's a common understanding. And it is an essential part. So we're very happy also to participate in this event. So see you in November. See you today around the talks, and I look forward to the next speaker. Thank you.